Oh, boy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again to AEWSPARK Re-Ignited. It's been a couple of weeks, but we are here to give you all of our thoughts on everything that's happened since Revolution, whether you watch this on live or on demand. My name is Noah Foster, and I am the Simple Man. And please welcome back with me again, one of my closest friends, a good role model, Dr. Bradley Campbell, Farm D. Don't forget it. Brad, how are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, no, it's been a little too long. Going to have to make sure we don't have this long of a break going forward. We keep the conversation going.
Well, the way I see it is this. With everything that's happening with wrestling and more wrestling being shown every week and our lives constantly developing, not just through the pandemic, but ourselves personally and professionally, my job included. And again, for those that are tuning in for the first time ever, I am not a worker for AEW, but I am #All Elite because I support wrestling in AEW. But I digress. And the way I see it, it does still work in our favor because the AEW agenda during the pandemic, they record 2 weeks of content within a couple of days, and the wrestlers get to relax following that. As you know, the last week's episode that we'll highlight, it was obviously previously recorded because there were no fans there. And the previous week after Revolution, that was live, and boy, did it leave us with a lasting angle. So I feel like these 2-week specials of AEWSPARK are not a bad thing at all. And at the end of the day, I just enjoy connecting with good, wholesome, open-minded wrestling fans like you, talking all things AEW. And again, it's great to see you, and I hope you and your family are doing well, personally, professionally, and of course, as we both are Christians, spiritually. And that's all that truly matters to me. With that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the discussion. So, as always with AEWSPARK, I like to shed some light on other things involved in AEW and the industry that I like to call the AEWSPARK Light. We officially have been 2 weeks removed from the AEW first pay-per-view of 2021, Revolution. A new series now has graced our internet stages weekly on Monday nights called Elevation. And we have seen some interesting developments now when it comes to the Good Brothers in Impact Wrestling. With that being said, Dr. Brad, you saw the first episode of Elevation. We also saw Revolution. Give me some of your takeaways from the Revolution pay-per-view, and what do you think about Elevation so far?
You know, I actually thought that Revolution was overall a fantastic pay-per-view. Minus that botch ending, which everyone talked about, but now it's died down, so we can take a step back and we can take the emotion out of our reaction and look at it for what it is.
Yeah.
I went there. I did.
I did too, brother. I did too. As a fan of deaf wrestling, strong style wrestling, and Japanese pro wrestling, and Anita Noshi himself, apologies I botched that name. Let's just say my good friend Cindy G got a very nice little vocal clip of my reaction. That's all I have to say.
It was. I'll tell you, for me personally, when I saw it happen, I just kind of thought, all right, I don't think that was supposed to happen. That was kind of odd, and everybody went, and just they crapped all over Eddie Kingston, which we can talk about that later. But
we will.
I was just, I thought it was overall an excellent pay-per-view. Mox and Omega just, they gave a brutal performance. It was violent. It was hard to watch at times. But you just felt that tension. Opening match between Chris Jericho and MJF against the Young Bucks. AEW seems to kind of go with their gut in the sense that we need to kick things off with tag team wrestling because we're the experts at tag team wrestling, and boy do they bring it and deliver when they do. Because that was another great back and forth match that night. And it's just going to add to the overall credibility of the Young Bucks as tag team champions.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on there. Continue.
So Scorpio Sky, I think a lot of fans are really rooting for him to, grab the brass ring. He's a great worker. And I was happy for him in the end. Another solid match. So we'll get to see what he can do. Darby Allin and Sting against Brian Cage and Absolute Ricky Starks. What a hell of a cinematic match that was. And I mean, I know that, things are just pre-taped in a cinematic match, but I felt like there was just a lot of great chemistry with the styles between Sting and Darby. You can just totally feel the master and apprentice vibe, the way those two work together, going up against, Cage and Starks, who are kind of like, the thug type heels in like a, abandoned alley house, so to say. It just worked so well, in just so many different ways.
Yeah, and kudos to AEW trying to capitalize on the potential that Darby Allin has when he basically pursued this in education, but it just didn't work out. It just goes to show that AEW is trying to really push the boundaries of what the talent they sign bring, not just in the ring, but also outside the ring as well through other creative means. It's not just Aubrey Edwards that can wear multiple hats or do other stuff.
Yeah.
As far as the pay-per-view goes, I thought it had a nice, smooth flow. Would I call it the best pay-per-view so far in AEW history? Not really, but overall, I enjoyed the show. And, of course, we saw what the fallout led to, and I'm pretty sure that third-party crew for the Explosives will never be hired again. In the immortal words of one Vince McMahon, you're fired. But that being said, I enjoyed it. So let's move on to Elevation. So Elevation right now, it's trying to be a standout beyond Dark. I feel like at first some people are under the impression it's Dark 2.0. I don't think it is. I look at the commentary between Paul White and Tony Schiavone. There's not really a lot of banter or jokes between them. They focus more so on demonstrating what the wrestlers bring in the ring, not just play-by-play, but the qualities they bring from their training to what they're known for to what they've showcased so far. I mean, they talk about like OVW and who has trained who, etc. And yes, we still have that contrast where a lot of these matches are still AEW's signed talent versus independent up-and-comers, promising prospects that could be not only part of AEW, but could thrive in the industry too. And I look at these matches, they each get a good dose amount of time. And honestly, I feel like everybody on Elevation, they all get to shine, win or lose. Give me your thoughts on what you think so far, the Elevation presentation.
Well, my wife and I watched the first episode of Elevation together last week. So we wanted to just kind of, give it a shot and see what it had to offer. And the one thing that we talked about the most as we watched it was specifically Paul White and his commentary and how much it stood out to us because you watch pro wrestling and they talk about the different things, that the play by play, they talk about the crowd, how they're reacting, they talk about they'll give a little bit about the past history, things that lead up to the match, they'll maybe reference other wrestlers, legends, and one of my favorite is the sharpshooter, shades of Bret the Hitman Hart. I always mark out when I hear that because I'm a Bret Hart fan. But
the
Paul
originator,
White, yeah. But you listen to a guy like Paul White, and he really approaches his commentary from more of perspective of I've been here, I've experienced this is what I think is going on, and here's why. I mean, just the way he explains things, it's just such a different way to approach commentary. It's like he is allowing you as the viewer to step inside the ring and understand psychologically what is going on between these opponents.
Well, that's kind of the way I feel like commentary should be pushed forward. It shouldn't be, just some witty banter or like one-inch punchlines, It should be to push what the talent can bring to the ring, but also maybe necessarily what attitude they bring too, whether it's just demonstrating the visual showcasing, the way they look at the camera, or just the overall presence in their entrance. I mean, you saw Botch. You saw Paul White firsthand. He fears Abaddon. Don't blame him. Yeesh. And I noticed that each match kind of gave a different outlook in Paul White's color commentary. I can understand now why he wanted to do this, and he truly does value doing this with Tony Schiavone, and I think he and Tony have great chemistry, and I really enjoy it. It honestly might be my favorite commentary duo going today, because you look at commentary today, there aren't that many duos out there that really, I feel like, resonate with the fans. People recognize a name like Paul White and Tony Schiavone. They have that past working relationship history, and they both are valued encyclopedias of the wrestling industry. Overall, I have enjoyed Elevation. Now, here's the thing. And shout out to Jeff Meacham Network. I don't necessarily do black and white, no pun intended. I don't necessarily compare and contrast, but I do like the fact when stuff sticks out and not everything blends together. Dark is more of an homage, a love note, and just a chance at opportunity for independent wrestling. While Elevation is still giving you more of a focus on independent wrestling, it gives you more of a focus on what AEW is trying to grow and bring you beyond those main names you may know from the previous company or you always see probably in the top tier picture. You think about the names that have been showcased: Ty Kanji, legit Layla Hirsch, Lee Johnson. The list goes on and on and on. Some of these people aren't even signed to AEW, but they really have shined through this presentation. And then they have this spotlight where they look at like up-and-comers. I mean, they looked at Red Velvet, spoiler alert, on this episode as I come to you 9:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday night, March 22nd. And they talked about how her hunger, her drive, and how she thrives, it seems, in this environment. And also how she wanted to be a wrestler, even though her father was a boxer. I thought that was a very interesting intake. Cody talks about her potential, and she's not even signed to AEW, confirmed. She is not even signed to AEW yet. So I really appreciate how Elevation is giving us a different outlook in the AEW roster, both signed and unsigned. And I feel like that this can go a very long way in really opening people's eyes to names they may not be familiar with. That's all I got to say about that. So I know you haven't looked at Impact Wrestling, but we know the AEW presence is there in Impact Wrestling. You have not seen their previous, not really pay-per-view, but monthly special that just concluded. It was Sacrifice. Main evented, of course, by Moose versus Rich Swann for TNA Impact World Heavyweight Championship Unification. And we got a definitive winner because the winner of that, of course, they have Kenny Omega in their future, title for title, AEW versus TNA Impact, whatever you want to call it. Well, I think at this time you probably know who won. And if you don't, folks, spoiler alert, Rich Swann will be taking on Kenny Omega at Rebellion next month for winner takes all AEW TNA Impact World Heavyweight Championship. So this homage about being a belt collector, in your case being a comic collector, it looks like it really can come to fruition. And the way I look at this, Rich Swann right now, he is on the best run in his career. But that promo that Don Callis gave, you don't look at nothing else from YouTube and Impact Wrestling's website, especially you, Brax. I know you haven't watched Impact lately due to your job and work stuff. No problem. Go watch that promo because Don Callis gave a lot for Rich Swann to think about. But honestly, it was all true and everything that he was saying in a way. So I know that you haven't watched the Impact products. You haven't had time. I know you haven't watched the pay, but give me your thoughts on the outlook of this match and this basically multi-company title unification.
Well, I have watched some of the pay-per-views. The last pay-per-view I watched from Impact was I can't remember the name of it. It was the one that was in February.
No, that was not Genesis. Was it the actual pay-per-view Hard to Kill with the 6-man? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, it was when Tommy Dreamer faced Rich Swann for the Impact title.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that was a previous Impact special. I got you.
Yeah. So I mean, for Impact, I've been really with Impact. I've really been, you should make a good point to watch the pay-per-views, the show. I would love to try to make a point to watch more. In fact, if I can get out of Bible study a little earlier tomorrow night, I'd come home and put it on. Then you're going to have NXT maybe going to Tuesdays. It's going to be like, which do I watch? That's a different story for another time. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that too, probably. Fickle! Anyway, continue.
back to the subject. So I'm a big fan of Rich Swann. I think, I have watched his work in Impact. And what I have seen, it's very easy to see why he's the world champion. I would love to see him and Omega go at it. And I mean, Omega is, saying, hey, I'm the belt collector. I am God's gift to pro wrestling. I am the best in the world. This match needs to happen. We've got like a big crossover event. It's just like, in the world of comic books, you got crossover with different characters of different worlds coming together, for one cause, one purpose. I mean, in that sense, this needs to happen.
Yeah, and in a way, it does bring the wrestling industry together. I know people are skeptical and have their doubts based on past and how egos can come into play and business partnerships and plans, etc., and different outlooks. because we all know how Scott D'Amore is a different booker than Tony Khan. That you could see from a freaking mile away. But I am curious what this leads to, especially since this is ahead of Double or Nothing, which of course will be at the end of May. But I digress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think that's a pretty good highlight as far as anything outside Dynamite, except for one other thing. I have to ask you about this because you did see episode 1. I never thought I'd see the day that Tony Khan would bring out his actual GM mode and literally come out on stage live to talk about a match. Now, was it me, or do you feel like he felt more pressure on himself to do that because he was stumbling all over the place? I don't think he was trying to be any sort of GM or official of the past, etc. But that was just an out of nowhere moment that definitely stuck out to me also on Elevation. And clearly I don't see them repeating that type of stuff, as you will find out once you watch episode 2. But I got to get your thoughts on that. Tony Khan, GM mode engage. What was your thoughts on that?
Definitely out of left field. I mean, I don't think anybody really expected that to happen because, Tony Khan has pretty much basically been off screen. I mean, we've seen a little bit. There's been a couple moments where you see him, behind the camera, like when the Young Bucks were kind of sort of going heel and they were saying, yo, hey, I super kicked this person here. Here's, $50 more, whatever. You saw little things like that. Yeah. You had those moments. You've seen him doing the promos on Impact, but Tony Khan is we've always viewed him as just a massive wrestling fan that's put together this company to give something back to the wrestling fans, an alternative, as it's often been said. But that moment he came out to really just lay the law down on Kenny Omega. That was a big surprise, and I thought it worked for a number of reasons. One, the aforementioned. I mean, he's not been on screen, so this was something new for AEW to do. Number two, Tony Khan's a very different, type of person, character than what Vince McMahon is. So he's not coming out as an authority figure in the sense that, hey, this is my show. You're going to see me week after week, and this is how things are going to go. It was more so of him, playing for a brief moment, just coming in and being a face and saying, I'm going to uphold you to your word, as in a gentleman's agreement, so to say.
Right. I will also say this. Glad Michael Nakazawa changed his weapon of choice from baby oil to an apple and a laptop. Maybe he should start wrestling more like that. Just saying. And, of course, one other thing, when I think about Dark, I still enjoy Dark. I watch it when I can. And Kylan King, she's elevating her game. Who knew she could pull up? Who knew the King could swing while moving in the ring? That's impressive. With that being said, that's really all I have to say about that. And I still think Tessa Price, love her attitude, future star in the making. Yeah. I still think Kylan King, Tessa Price should be a tag team as well, as they still test the foundations of women's tag team wrestling. And they're finally pushing women's wrestling, it seems, too, because Riho and Mikey Ito, the internet's favorite sensation, it seems, hell of a main event. I couldn't be happy to see a Kokeshi falling on a bridge. Mikey Ito, arigato. I hope to see you again in AEW soon. All right. Well, speaking of all of that, let's go ahead and talk about what's been going on lately on Dynamite. I mean, you think about it. We've had long-term storytelling in more ways than one. We've had major developments, maybe some heel turns, face turns, some new storylines and rivalries, and honestly, still don't know where some stuff is going. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the discussion. So I want to start by talking about basically what happened as the fallout to the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Because in a way, a lot of those people, they basically got what was coming next for them in their own way. We all know that Scorpio Scott, he capitalized. He literally grabbed the brass ring, which gave him that TNT title match. He and Darby Allin had a hell of a banger. But honestly, it felt like it was Scorpio Sky's last chance. Simple wrestling allowed Darby Allin to get the win. It was as simple as that. And honestly, all it took was just simple roll-up momentum, and he was able to successfully retain the TNT championship. And while you thought there would be respect, there wasn't. Sky turned, Sky attacked the man, and he felt damn good about it. I feel like SCU has been on the verge right now of breaking down and turning themselves completely around ever since losing the tag team titles, and Sky trying to find himself as a singles competitor, while Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, they're still trying to lead their own way, all or nothing, towards the tag team championships. But we also learn that Lance Archer, he's a guy now that's not going to wait for the moment. He's going to take the moment. And this time he's now trying to take it at the expense of not Darby Allin, but Sting? What? I can understand Jake the Snake Roberts and Sting confronting each other, but Lance and Sting? I'm curious where that goes. And then following that, of course, we had the debut of All Ego Ethan Page, who so far has had a pretty good run, and weird logo, by the way. And then, of course, we have Cody and Penta, who have developed a very personal rivalry at the expense of saying, I'm going to break your arm to the point you're not going to be able to carry your own freaking child. We saw this fell out with a singles match between the two where Penta lost. And again, simple wrestling. All Cody did was simply adjust his momentum, and Penta got beat. And then literally he was so furious, Penta began attacking the arm. So we're seeing right now the development of all the competitors from the Face of the Revolution ladder match. So I want to get your solo thoughts regarding the Face of the Revolution ladder match participants and the way that they're going. So talk to me about either Sky, Cody, Penta. What's been your thoughts regarding them?
Going into Revolution, I think, as I mentioned earlier, that there was a lot of people really hoping to see Scorpio Sky get that moment. And I've always thought he was a great performer, and I was happy for him in that regard. But personally, I was pulling for Lance Archer, and what a performance he had in that match.
Oh, yeah.
Lance just dominated. And the thing is, like, I think he benefited from that match with how dominant he looked. There was a couple moments, especially towards the end, you thought he was going to get that brass ring, and it just didn't pan out. He really impressed me in that match, and I'm glad to see that, he's starting to get that dominant streak going in him again. Ethan Page had a great debut. I think on the Team All Elite page, I think Mark was, there may have been one other person who predicted correctly, but Mark predicted him as a secret entrant. It was a cool surprise to see him jump in. I thought he had a good debut. What we have seen of him, he's been great. So I'm looking forward to seeing more what he has to offer AEW coming up in the future.
All right.
Penta, Penta's just fantastic. Cero miedo, no fear.
Yeah, he definitely demonstrated that with a friggin' destroyer on a hanging ladder between the barricade and the ring apron. The spots that those men took at that ladder match, too. Good God, that was a highlight reel for a whole night. But yeah, Penta and Cody, he's attacking what many people call, is like that guy you need to beat and be in the ring with to make your name in AEW. And this is the same guy, by the way, that took on Kenny Omega back in the pre-Genesis of AEW, All In. And this is the same guy that's one half of the Lucha Brothers that many people think at this point should be tag team champions, but it looks like both Lucha Brothers are going their own way. But Penta and Cody?
I like the idea of Penta and Cody. It's not really a rivalry that you would really expect, but it works. It's fresh. You take Cody's technical style, match it up with Penta's Lucha Libre style, and you get magic in the ring. Look at the match we had last week. It was a great way to kick off Dynamite. And just, Penta made it personal with his remarks of, I'm going to, break that arm so you can't hold your little girl when she's born. You really can't get much more personal than that to really make someone want to come out and just, break your neck for saying something, so to say. So I think it's a great rivalry. It's one that I hope that continues, and we get to see more of those two in the ring together somewhere down the line.
Well, Cody needs to focus on fixing that shoulder because at one point I thought he wasn't even going to be involved anymore in that ladder match, and he came back, and it was him and Sky at the top of the ladder at the end. That was not the scenario I was thinking because Penta was my pick to win. And then I think about Penta once again demonstrating why he is one of the best in the world, maybe trying to find his place in AEW right now. Maybe, yeah, he and Cody continue to work magic. And this, of course, isn't the first time they've ever been one-on-one in the ring. They faced each other on the indies. But I also find it interesting how he used Alex Carrantes, the Spanish, correspondent, to translate his promo, and Alex didn't just basically translate; he exemplified it. I must admit, I was impressed by that. But then Penta bringing it to Cody's language, English. There's definitely something going on here that I think is far from over. I don't think this is just a one-off, and I'm just curious where this goes from here. Now, as far as Lance Archer, fellow Christian, by the way, too, he's bringing biblical proportions now. He's trying to go after the icon. You really wonder right now, what is he trying to do? Is he trying to just push his name forward at the expense of Sting? Where does this really go? And we still have yet to really see Sting bring a promo battle, of course, to either Jake or Lance, because, again, the only thing that's for sure about Sting is, well, never mind. As he just said, okay, Tony, see you later, as they were coming off victory from that, of course, street fight, as you alluded to. Again, great cinematography by Darby Allin for that. I feel like the only thing that could have changed for that, maybe commentary didn't have to be like so overbearing. It could have been more like a mystery science theater thing, like, a little silhouette, and then you get like moments where they're talking. You don't pause or rewind it, but I feel like that cinematic match personally did not need the commentary, but I understand why they did it, because still, it was a wrestling match. Ding, ding. And credit where credit's due. At least the commentary did focus on the action being told here, and they sounded half smart to what was going on. But I digress. All right, so with that being said, we're wondering where Sky goes from here. We haven't seen him since he tried to destroy Darby Allin's leg. But let's go ahead and talk about Darby Allin, because as Darby Allin alluded to, he wants to set a precipice for this title in the name of the late, great Brody Lee, who he calls, of course, the greatest TNT champion. I think many would agree. So he posed an open challenge to the Dark Order, and of all people, of all the numbers, who accepted? But everyone's favorite, super bald but muscular small guy that should not be as strong as it seems, Johnny Hungy, John Silver. I feel like people really want to see John Silver as a champion, but this is Darby Allin, and you have two of the all-time favorites right now in AEW that have really become breakout stars in their own right. I don't know about you, and with the Dark Order being like face two, this is going to be weird, and I kind of don't want to see either man win or lose. I don't know necessarily if I want to even see this match right now. Give me your thoughts on Darby Allin and his homage, where he wants to defend this, basically like Cody did, each and every week, be as great of a champion as possible. And he's starting with the Dark Order. Do you see this being a one-off with just this member of the Dark Order? Will he challenge maybe them all over the weeks to come? Or, like, how far do you see Darby Allin's TNT title run going? Give me your thoughts on this.
Well, let's talk about the promo first. I mean, he said, I've been the TNT champion since November 2020, and I've only defended it 3 or 4 times.
Give or take, that is correct.
Yeah. So, and that's honestly, that's probably the biggest critique I've heard from fans regarding Darby Allin, is that since he's won the title, he hasn't really defended it much. I mean, he got wrapped into this program with Sting and Team Taz, which was a great program. Don't get me wrong, but there could have been, plenty of title defenses in between all that. So that being said, it gets brought up in the promo. Darby himself acknowledges it. John Silver has become a big fan favorite, especially since the passing of Brody Lee. He's really taken a lot of screen time on BTE. He's really grown in the ring. I remember the Brody Lee tribute show for Dynamite. He was just on fire that night and really showed what he can do. I mean, it just makes sense. I think those two are pretty close in size, not so much in stature. I mean, John Silver's a big husky dude, but I think that those two could have some good chemistry together. As far as how far down the line will this go? I think it depends how good of a match we get on Wednesday. I think that'll tell us if it's going to go any further. Would I like to see more Dark Order members challenge Darby for the TNT title? wouldn't be opposed to it. Although, John Silver seems like he's the top guy in the Dark Order. So if he's the one to lose, and he's the first one, who comes next? The only person that I really could see logically coming next that's associated with the Dark Order to challenge that belt is Hangman Adam Page, and he's not even an official member.
Heyman Adam Page going after the TNT champion on behalf of the Dark Order. Well, it's kind of funny that you do mention the Heyman because, as we saw, Heyman, well, let's be honest. Who in America right now is not richer than they already were? But Heyman right now is richer than most of us combined, as he did get quarter one of Big Money Matt's earnings. But Big Money Matt is building a big money empire as he recruited Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny, yay, Allie, literally to his family, I guess you could call it that, business, I don't know. And we basically have seen so far how this has developed. They, of course, had their first match together with Private Party on Elevation. And then, of course, there was a wild 10-man tag where basically it was a battle of the animals, dinosaurs and bears, could not seem to pull it together. And Marco Stunt, of course, he suffered a twist of fate, and Matt Hardy picks up the win as Matt Hardy now has a personal vendetta to make Hangman pay. I feel like at some point we're going to get Hangman in the Dark Order versus the entire Matt Hardy empire. As he said, he's building an empire, but hey, as long as Ali gets paid, whatever. I still think Butcher and Blade need to be tag team champions, and I will take that to the grave until it happens because Butcher, Blade, and the Bunny is my favorite trio. But with that being said, you do bring up the whole Hangman and the whole Matt Hardy thing. I just thought of something. It would not surprise me if a member of Matt Hardy's empire comes out and costs John Silver this match, thus furthering that idea that Matt will not rest until he eliminates the Dark Order once and for all and makes Hangman hurt emotionally, not just financially or physically under this matter. But give me your thoughts on this whole Matt Hardy Empire outlook. I don't know about you, but I feel like ultimately this is another faction forming itself as we're getting a bit of a faction warfare going on, and we'll definitely talk about another faction now on the AEW scene quite soon. But give me your thoughts towards this Matt Hardy Empire. How far do you see this going? This isn't the first time that Butcher and Blade and the Bunny were hired guns. MJF, of course, used to use them as well when he was dealing with Cody and his buddies. Give me your thoughts on this.
Well, I like the idea of Matt Hardy having his own empire, Big Money Matt. It's sort of, I think it's sort of an homage to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, in a way. He's kind of put his own little spin on it, and it's something different. We didn't see a gimmick like this in WWE. I don't think we saw one in Impact, unless I'm mistaken.
Not that I can bring off the top of my head, but I'm sure Greg Cherry could probably tell us something. Go check out the Greg Cherry brand, folks, and the Wrestling Trivia Challenge Championship or tournament. Continue.
So that being said, it's something new. It's something fresh for Matt Hardy. I think that it's worked better than Broken Matt Hardy did in AEW. As much as I love Broken Matt Hardy,
yeah.
How far will this go? It's hard to say. I mean, it would. It depends what AEW has in store. I think it could go on long term if you book things right and you get Private Party to be tag team champions down the road, and those are the guys that are going to be the ones to take the belts off the Bucks. Then, hey, this could go on for a while. Not saying that that's what's going to happen,
right?
But what a shock that would be.
Well, we've seen Private Party now have opportunities for both the tag titles in AEW and the tag titles in Impact Wrestling. They've gotten better with this new found character development as harder hitting, more strategy-based heels, but they can't get the job done. That was one of the biggest critiques I remember reading about Private Party. They don't lay their stuff in. They're more pizzazz. They're more show. I feel like right now they're really starting to demonstrate more. And we've seen both these men in singles action. They can bring it under the right circumstances. They brought it to Cody and Hangman. Just saying. But again, I feel like this is all going to break down to the point Butcher and Blade are going to be right. You can't afford us. We quit. And honestly, I just want to see Butcher and the Blade at this point destroy Private Party. But talking about team warfare, you thought about the Bears facing the Butcher and the Blade. The Bears might face the freaking Jurassic Express at this point. I mean, they've had a fight since Revolution, that freaking over-the-top rope battle royale. And you saw their team literally fall apart as Bear Country was using Marco Stunt as a human projectile, almost overshooting him. you wonder if that just added more animosity to the point we're going to get maybe Luchasaurus versus one of these two in singles. And with us, Jungle Boy sitting all this to it. My God, Jungle Boy is so freaking incredible. That match with Danny Limelight, man. But I digress. Bottom line is this. We'll have to see how all this falls out with Butcher Blade, the Hardy Empire, Dark Order, Hangman, and Jurassic Express and freaking Bear Country, too. There's a lot of different dynamics going on in this tag team division. Again, the most dynamic tag team division on the planet, probably ever in the wrestling industry. Someone challenge me on that. I dare you. All right. So moving on from there, let's go ahead and talk about this because I don't know about you, but I've been wondering, when is Miro going to break out? What do you guys say?
One thing I want to add real quick, and I just want to get this out there. Dream match for me, if it would ever be possible. Private Party versus Street Profits.
Okay, I just want to see. I want to see who has higher hops now, Montez Ford or freaking Mark Quan. Okay, you sold me. You sold me. You sold me. Take my freaking money. That sounds awesome.
I mean, if there was ever, I feel like there's some similarities between those teams, just the athleticism. I would just love to see. I would seriously mark out if like Mark Quinn or Isaiah Cassie just walked out, grabbed the mic, and they just said, "We want to deliver a message. All we got to say is, boys, we want the smoke." And
they hold a solo cup and then crush it in their hands. That's how you sell a match. Just saying.
Montez Ford's like, you hear that? We got a private party that we've been invited to.
Yes. Oh, man. The idea of the wrestling industry being fully open one day is a beautiful thing. But for now, I'll take what's going on and just roll with the momentum. Okay, let's go ahead and briefly talk about Miro. I feel like finally he's thinking about himself only, though he still says outside the ring, we're best friends. It feels like right now maybe there's some tension between Kip and Miro, but more so maybe Miro and Ford. We saw what happened during that brief match of Revolution, and since then, Miro and Kip as a tag team have been pretty effective in the ring, bell to bell, but it seems like they're kind of pushing Ford to the side. It's almost as if Miro is trying to push Kip forward, but he still has his own agenda ahead of that. And right now, Ford is completely left out of this entire scenario. Honestly, you wonder if that might be a little better because it might actually mean we get a bit more of a push from Ford because I think she is incredibly phenomenal in the ring.
She is. Very.
But right now, we know the best friends challenge the Miro and Kip to a rematch. Under all circumstances, I feel that they would book it like this if it's official, an arcade fight. Arcade machines around ringside. What the hell did video games ever do to you? But I digress as a gamer. Give me your fossil on this development. It looks like Miro does not want this match. Do you think this match should happen to once for all solidify Miro is going to stand on his own and push past this? Or as Miro says, is he already moved on past this? And what should Miro do next? What do you see being the fallout maybe to this, where it's finally game over for this whole video game facade?
Game over. I like what you did there. And I saw what you did there.
Yeah, you know me.
So, let's talk about Miro. Revolution did for Miro what I think Miro has needed for a little while. He needed to be reestablished as a dominant force. There's been a lot of talk amongst wrestling fans, the internet wrestling community. How has Miro really benefited from coming to All Elite Wrestling? Is his status really that much better than what it was in WWE? We know that Miro is a great worker, but he came in as a powerhouse initially. Didn't really see too much of it. He's had some squash matches, but this is a great, not completely a squash match, but to see him be that dominant towards Orange Cassidy and
Chuck Taylor.
Chuck Taylor, yeah, which are two fairly popular guys in AEW. Yeah. Really just kind of added to his credibility going forward. Does Miro need this match? No, he does not. But I would argue that Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy need this match. They need to show they can go toe-to-toe with the guy that's bigger than them, that's been bullying them, that's been taking advantage of them. This is their opportunity to show that, hey, just because we're not your average wrestler, that you're just kind of your standout guys, standoffish guys, we can hang with them and we can beat these guys.
Well, you'll find on Elevation, there might be a whole different team that literally applies that dynamic you're talking about that Orange and Chuck might take on if this match doesn't fall through. But I do understand what you're saying, because right now, without Trent, the best friends have kind of been a little bit on a down slope as a team, it seems. And in fact, these guys formerly were the #1 contenders to the AEW Tag Team Championships and had one of the matches of the year last year with the freaking Proud and Powerful. So, again, but as far as Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford, and Miro goes, I think Miro's finally going to stand out on his own sooner than later, as he did say he's here for one reason, and that is to be the world champion. Because, again, if you're not there to be the world champion, why are you even involved in wrestling? And by the way, shout out to Dustin Rose and his wrestling showcase. That was phenomenal. I hope to see more of that. Again, I got to support one of my all-time favorites. But I do wonder, his partner, QT, what is going through his mind? I've heard he's a very critical trainer, but it seems that right now he might be trying to, I don't know, like go on his own, although we have seen it with Nick Camarado. And he says everything in the Nightmare Family is fine, but he also was very long in helping Cody being beaten down by Penta. We can talk more about that later. I just want to give some subtle highlights because, again, AEWSPARK's not necessarily like a full-on review, summary, point by point. We look at the key aspects, we wonder what's next, what excites us, give our insight to it, and maybe encourage you to join the conversation and maybe check it out for yourself, too, whether you look at a highlight or even listen to this, and I appreciate all that do. But let's go ahead and talk about this other development before we basically talk about what I have here is like a 3-part main event. Shout out to Elevation. Christian Cage was a surprise that happened at Revolution as the newest signee to AEW. And a lot of people wonder, why is this man here? What is he going to do? What is going to be put forward to do? And are they just going to push him straight to the moon? And that is not because I'm a fan of Cameron Grimes. But I digress as I watch all things wrestling. But as we subtly learned, Christian Cage is here to do one thing. I love that he basically used the word simple in it too. He's here to cement his legacy and outwork everybody. But there's only one way you can personify that and do that. You have to take the top spot. And who currently occupies that spot? But another fellow Canadian, Kenny Omega. And to think, this guy was going to talk to us 2 weeks ago, but didn't get the chance to because kayfabe, shoot, call what you will. Don Callis, what a master of a promo. Basically, they came out, they stole the time, they talked about what happened at Revolution and how, we weren't involved with it, but we're kind of glad it happened because it made Eddie Kingston look like a dumbass as he was trying to be the hero for his friend. As we got the drinking buddies back together, and who knew this is the tag team I've been wanting to see in AEW and already a stacked 15 tag team division, but I digress. And basically at this point, they were making fun of Eddie Kingston, basically calling out the man's pride. So what did Kenny Omega receive from that? A hell of a right hand that dropped that boy. Until the Good Brothers came in with the 2-on-1 offensive. And then Jon Moxley comes out for the save. We've seen these two now. They've had witty banter. They blame Impact Wrestling for the explosions in the budget. Maybe this was Act Me or something like that, etc. And they don't like the Good Brothers. Bottom line is this. We saw Christian Cage, no words. He came in. He tried to kill switch Kenny Omega. He held the belt. We know what he's here to do. And he's going to do it by any means necessary, the right way, the strongest work ethic to do it. I respect that. And we also know now what awaits the Good Brothers while, spoiler alert, they wait to try and get back their Impact World Tag Team Championships that they lost to FinJuice. I must admit, I was surprised by that, but I'm not disappointed in it. So now we have this rivalry going on where it's the Good Brothers versus the Drinking Buddies. And we saw how this played out in a tag team match this past Dynamite, where simple wrestling, it's amazing how much these stories more so, and not just wrestling action, are driven by just a simple finish, not like the big, impactful finisher. A simple roll-up, a cradle, a mousetrap, you name it, a roll-through of momentum. Well, the same thing happened here. And basically, Jon Moxley got the win, but it didn't come without a receipt at the expense of his friend, as literally the Good Brothers, they basically probably broke Kingston's ankle. And before they could break Moxley's neck, who comes out for the save of all people? The Young Bucks. And it seems the Young Bucks' integrity has been called into question by one Don Callis. So is the Elite completely fine? I think we finally got an idea right now what the Young Bucks are questioning. Are we still the elite? Or is there something else here that isn't too sweet? So with that being said, Dr. Brad, let's go ahead and break this down. I want to first get your opinion on Christian Cage and his outlook on what he wishes to do in AEW. Do you believe he can achieve it?
You know, I love the thought of Christian Cage as a top guy in AEW. You know, rival promotion WWE has Edge. He's going to be main eventing WrestleMania.
Correct.
So let's go back to January, the Royal Rumble. Those two guys hug it out. That was Christian's goodbye. You know, in retrospect, how cool would it be to see Edge at the top of his game in one company, then Christian at the very top of his game in the rival company? Because those two get compared all the time. And Christian's got a fantastic work ethic, great in the ring, you know, really solid on the mic. I don't know, though, if he'll be the guy to take down Kenny Omega. I just don't see it. I think he can give Kenny Omega a run for his money. They can have a great match together, but Omega's not dropping the title anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't see Omega's run with this belt going away anytime soon, but you gotta wonder now as we switch topics, the run with the Young Bucks. I must say, I did enjoy this tag team match, but it was definitely the after match that I think was the more memorable part here. Kingston's ankle broken, Moxley tries to go for the save, Moxley almost gets his neck broken, the Young Bucks, they stop the Good Brothers from doing this. Kenny Omega's like, what are you doing? Is everything okay here? Too sweet me. Too sweet me! And they refuse. They walk away, which gives Jon Moxley enough time to, because again, he's crazy. It's always this man versus the world. He tries to grab a chair and takes out Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. Didn't work. But we got to talk about what's going on here right now. Kingston, such a great promo, such a great wrestler. He might be on the shelf for a moment. And right now, the Good Brothers, I feel like they are in better graces than Kenny Omega because Don Callis, the puppeteer, the invisible hand pulling the strings, he's basically setting up, I think, a split. And I feel inevitably we're going to get the Young Bucks versus the Good Brothers, maybe for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Of course, we know what waits the Young Bucks more immediately. But give me your whole thoughts on really what feels like right now the story of three trios. You got Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, former rivals, now best friends. Talk about long-term storytelling. You got the Young Bucks who have been rolling with Kenny Omega forever. And now you got the Good Brothers, who, again, all five of these people were once the strongest thing in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and now it seems like it's all splitting at the seams by Don Callis, the puppeteer. Give me your thoughts on all this fallout.
Well, you know, the thing is, the Elite was such a popular entity to get AEW rolling. I mean, Kenny Omega is considered, you know, one of the best in the world. Young Bucks considered one of the best tag teams in the world. So it's natural for the company to start those three guys together. But, you know, nothing lasts forever in the world of wrestling. So
that's for sure.
Something has to give at some point. With Omega turning heel, it makes sense that those guys would be splitting off. And, you know, what better than to have the Good Brothers come in and kind of take that spot. I mean, you know, they got that real cocky attitude. They're just goofballs. They're there to kind of get you to laugh. They got great chemistry with Omega, especially the fact that he's a heel now. Moxley and Kingston, they have illustrated their history together through their rivalries that they've had in the past. So to see them kind of come together, especially after that brutal barbed wire match, I mean, it just shows that, you know, two guys can be beaten and broken, but can kind of lift each other up when they're down. There's got to be some kind of force to kind of go up against this new, whatever you want to call this group that Don Callis is running, the, you know, the too sweet, you know, pack, so to say.
Yeah.
So Moxley and Kingston, those two guys together, especially after the fallout of Revolution, it makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. And honestly, I could feel these two maybe going to war with the Good Brothers for the time being. But the Bucks being pushed right now to really be standing out on their own. I mean, Don Cassidy said, yeah, you guys, you're killing the business. But I mean, the business right now, it's killing itself. You guys have been basically killing your careers. You let everyone else take credit for everything around here. Kenny Omega doesn't even recognize you guys anymore. Kenny Omega has changed, and of course the Bucks say, yeah, he's changed, but he's changed because of you. Don Callis again, maybe all according to plan. Maybe this is the long-term plan. Finally get the Young Bucks away from Kenny Omega once and for all. We'll have to see how far this goes. When you think about the relationships from a personal standpoint, Don Callis does have more of a personal connection with Kenny Omega than the Young Bucks. Again, this is the guy that's been with Kenny Omega since childhood, it seems. So, again, there's a lot going on here. As far as Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston goes, someone tell me Eddie Kingston's going to come out like a bat out of hell after the Good Brothers, what they did, and won't rest until he takes the Good Brothers out once and for all. And Jon Moxley's like, I'm with you, man. But Jon Moxley, one arm or not, because he was literally a one-arm man this match, he's just ready to kick everybody's ass on his way to eventually get the AEW World Championship. I feel like that's got to be an end game for Jon Moxley. All right. So, with that being said, there were two other major things that have developed over these last 2 weeks. And I feel like right now, based on what's been going on with AEW's latest presentation, I'm going to focus on this first, but more so this. As we learned after Revolution and after MJF and Jericho came up short in pursuing the tag team championships from the Young Bucks, there was a war council to decide what was going to happen. Yeah, while he claims he's better than you and you know it, he was not better than the Young Bucks that night. But apparently, and I think this has been in development since the start of the pandemic, where you saw Shawn Spears and MJF literally bantering with each other. I feel like people might have forgotten that. And Sammy, he exposed the truth. And we were right. MJF was trying to take over the Inner Circle, or was he? As Sammy and Jericho seemed to be on the same page, and Jericho fired MJF, before there was going to be a 6-on-1 beatdown with Floyd the baseball bat, what did MJF subtly said? He said, look, I didn't want you to find out like this, but hear me out, Chris. I swear I didn't want to take over the group because I was busy building my own. Click. FTR, Tully Blanchard, Shawn Spears, and Wardlow, they are at the standing front now for MJF, and it all just ensues in the absolute destruction of the Inner Circle, with Chris Jericho left bloodied, beaten, battered, bruised, and basically planted off the stage for 2 tables, while MJF stands tall at the very front of this new group that is simply called The Pinnacle. You are looking at the pinnacle of professional wrestling. This is very interesting because I thought for the longest time we were developing a 4 horsemen group, as it seems like we're getting a lot of faction warfare here. But we learned about the momentum, we learned about the motivation, we learned about the whole point to this too. As MJF said, well, I guess I am the Judas now, pretending to like you was like no walk in the park. Again, he is such an asshole, but he can play with your emotions so much. And simply, all this is we are the Pinnacle, and we will take every championship and anything else we want. The Pinnacle is here to take over, and MJF is at the forefront with one of the strongest minds, strongest tag team, strongest enforcers, and most dynamic wrestlers on the AEW roster. Good grief! Talk about making an impact and changing the game. And to think, we are just a little over 1 year removed where we were supposed to get blood and guts with the Elite and the Inner Circle in Rochester, New York, and it never happened. Double or Nothing's coming up. And while Jericho says Stay in Stampede, he wants to be a tradition, I don't know about you, Dr. Bradley. I think we got blood and guts in our hands, but give me your thoughts on the Inner Circle's Pinnacle developed.
So I'm just going to go ahead and inject another crossover dream match while we're on top of MJF. MJF versus The Miz.
Oh, Lord Almighty. Okay, well, here's the thing. I'm going to say it right now. Both men are incredible promos. Both men have incredible work ethics. Kudos to The Miz never being injured. But it doesn't change the fact that I still think MJF is the all-around better professional wrestler than The Miz, based on what I've seen him do in the ring. While Miz has longevity, I feel MJF has superiority in the ring. Now continue.
MJF is one of the best heels in the business, and the guy is only 24 years old. And he makes sure that you know, and he constantly reminds you of how young he is and how much time he has left. But you know, this may very well be one of, if not the best storyline that AEW has right now. I mean, who saw this coming? Um, who saw this new group forming with the chairman Sean Spears and FTR to create this new four horsemen like group, which we talked about up to a year ago, months and months ago, even, that this is something that could form, and who's it going to be? Well, now we have it, and it came out of left field when it was unexpected. This is long-term storytelling and fan service together at its finest, and there is so much potential. You could take this group and have them be the next dominant heel faction in AEW, put the tag titles on FTR, put the TNT title on the chairman, and then put the world title on MJF. Give him about a year, make it happen, and make the fans boo the shit out of that group when live crowds are back again.
Ah, man, I'm just wondering how the Inner Circle bounces back from this, because now the Pinnacle has taken this so far, they took over the Inner Circle's locker room. And you're right, it's literally, and you look at the design, it's a four horseman group, and then you have one of the strongest minds in the business, and the guy that started this all, it seems, that's why there's one star above the other five. Look at the symbol, MJF. And again, this has been in development since you literally saw the banter between MJF and Sean Spears back when the pandemic first started. That was last year in March. This has been a year in the making. And of all people, I did not see MJF being the guy at the forefront to lead this. This is insanity. But again, it goes to show how far AEW gives us long-term storytelling and how much you really need to look into everything that goes on in AEW, because you don't know what it will lead to. And all I got to say is this. There's going to be hell to pay. And you saw the tweet from Proud and Powerful. Handcuffs, blood. I figured Inner Circle is going to go face, or Proud and Powerful is going to go their own way. Maybe if Tria Trinidad shows up. I'm just waiting on that and just wondering, but I digress. But we're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. All right, well, that leads us to the main event of tonight's forum, and all I got to do is sum it up in 4 words. Women's wrestling, history made. This all started back when Ryo Mizunami gave Hikaru Shida her strongest and longest match to date for the AEW Women's World Championship, and personally for me, that was my match of the night. I'm so damn glad to see Ryo Mizunami still in AEW. Damn, that was a good match. But it did not come without some aftermath. As of course, during that show as well, we had opening in the buy-in, Maki Ito, Kalai, and Britt Baker. Did not expect Maki Ito with her. That was a pleasant surprise. They, of course, took on the team of Thunder Rosa and Riho, and thanks to Rebel, not Reba, with a crutch, of course, your good doctor got the win by hook or by crook. But that was not the only time we saw her, as Nyla, Vicky, and freaking Britt, they made their presence known again afterwards. And this devolved into a 6-woman tag, where while hell was breaking loose, Maki Ito just performing her song, headphones in the ears, literally gets taken out, or attempted to be taken out, by Shida, and just hits her in the microphone. By the way, Maki Ito, best female delivered Kokeshi I've ever seen. That makes me happy. We saw the 6-woman tag, though, as, of course, Thunder Rosa, Hikaru Shida and company, they did get the win, but Britt Baker, once again, stands on top at the expense of Thunder Rosa. This has been brewing and brewing and brewing for months now, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. And you ultimately wonder what was it going to take to get an end game with these two. And you also wonder, when the fans' mind, what will it take to elevate, no pun intended, the AEW Women's Division? You waited for over a year. Look how long some other companies took to make a division or make something happen. It may have took over a year and maybe a half, but Dr. Brad, did AEW finally gave you what you truly wanted to see from their women's division with this freaking match? Especially when you consider this afterwards. I don't know about you, but this match is up there. It does not stand as the greatest, but this is up there when it comes to changing the game, giving you something to remember. The likes of Bayley and Sasha Banks at Brooklyn 1. I felt that sort of impact here from emotional investment and respect to women's wrestling. We've been wanting AEW to push forward women's wrestling, push forward this division for a while. And it felt like this match right here finally proved not only can they do it, but we believe they can too. Give me your thoughts on Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker. Lights out unsanctioned match.
This is certainly the best women's wrestling match we've seen in AEW history, in my opinion.
Damn right.
This is a contender for match of the year in AEW thus far for 2021.
Mm-hmm.
This proves why Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, respectively, are two of the best wrestlers in women's wrestling today. I got vibes of Mox versus Omega in their lights out match.
Oh, yeah, because, boy, you think women can't bring it? Think about this. When was the last time, God bless you, when was the last time we saw a women's wrestling match go to this extent where you literally have both bleeding, bruised, battered, using everything imaginable to ultimately destroy each other? Everything was used here. Steel steps, a crutch, tacks, ladders, wood, everything. And honest to God, I was not disappointed with the result, despite what happened. But give me more of your overall feedback from this match and any moments you can remember.
Think about all the times that Britt Baker has interfered in Thunder Rosa matches, all the times that she's attacked her backstage, the insults thrown at her, Rebel just being there to just hit her with that cane. This is a vicious rivalry that can only go out one way in a very violent and brutal manner. And those two ladies just gave it their all. They really left their hearts in the ring that night. Bleeding hearts, mind you. But gosh, what a story to tell. From two of the best in the industry right now. That standing ovation was well deserved.
Absolutely.
They earned it.
They earned it. They sold it. Man. So, yeah, let's think about this. Out of the gate, you could tell he's already had a different attitude going in. It's a bit bigger, not smile, not doing this. She was just all attitude coming out there. And then literally as Thunder Rosa comes out with a very nice look, by the way, for St. Patrick's Day, she literally gets air raid crash. Strong offense early going by Britt Baker, who goes immediately for a quick pinfall. But we're just getting started. That she then goes for a freaking thing off of the rampway. And at one point, we literally find Britt Baker smashing Thunder Rosa's face to the steps. Thunder Rosa now red, white, and green. As we now have further attack on the admin with use of a steel chair, and then Reba tries to get involved. Of course, Reba, she suffers steel chair. She also suffers a table spot later and a crutch. Crazier spots that involved in this match. Oh, let's see. There was a off-the-top rope rolling DVD on Britt Baker by Thunder Rosa. There was a drop toe hold into ladder face first for Britt Baker, to the point Britt Baker was bleeding after getting caught in the corner with a running dropkick ladder into Britt's face, to the point Reba, such an incredible character, she's bleeding! She's bleeding! And this is the moment where I was like, okay, we're going to another level, because as you saw, I don't know what it is when it comes to Britt Baker and blood, but something I think triggers in Britt Baker's mind when she starts bleeding, because the woman can sell hardcore. And boy, did this match get friggin' hardcore. Because, okay, we're going to get the lockjaw maybe in play here as Thunder Rosa, she's back on top after Britt Baker DDT'd her. But it wasn't enough to try and do the lockjaw. No, we're going to go a little further. A black bag. What? And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Freaking thumbtacks. Thousands of thumbtacks poured out of that bag onto the ring. She was planning to swing a net break at the risk of her own body, I imagine. Thunder Rosa into them, but Thunder Rosa countered, then goes for a powerbomb. Nope, that didn't happen. Then Reba, of course, tries to get involved. Probably going to get a repeat with that crutch shot. Fumi wants same on you. Fumi tries same on me. Didn't work the second time. Reba gets clocked, and then she gets driven off in the table. But then Baker tries for a death fire jar of her own, only for Thunder Rosa to counter it into your good doctor being turned into a human pincushion. Jesus. But somehow, I imagine just shock alone, Britt Baker freaking kicks out. And then we go from there where somehow Britt Baker locks Thunder Rosa into the lockjaw, fully conscious, I might add, only for Thunder Rosa to realize her environment and literally roll Britt Baker back into the thumbtacks, forcing her to release the lockjaw. That's the first time ever I've seen the lockjaw countered. And then we go from there where there's still a table, I might add from earlier, set up at ringside, and we're wondering, what the hell are these two going to do? What is left? What is it going to take to end this thing? Well, I'll tell you what, freaking ended it all right. We go to the apron, and then Britt Baker hits Thunder Rosa with a fresh kick on the button. She was going to go for some crazy top rope maneuver, powerbomb, but Thunder Rosa countered out of that, and then hit Britt Baker with a ridiculous Fire Thunder driver off the apron, through the table, to the floor, and finds a way to cover her, and Thunder Rosa wins this one-of-a-kind, amazing women's main event and the strongest match in AEW women's wrestling history. Why both were answered by standing ovation, embraced by the champion Thunder Rosa was. And Britt Baker, she just felt truly happy and felt like, oh, Mox's going to be proud of me. How's Adam Cole going to feel? Adam Cole's done some extreme shit, but I haven't seen him do anything like that in NXT. Damn, Britt Baker. And the face, she's still a dentist. Probably had to be like at a dental office the next day. And, of course, we learned later on, Thunder Rosa, she said, this is what I can bring and do with women's wrestling. I showed you what I'm about. I showed you what women's wrestling is tonight. As, of course, you have follow-up to that, taking on Camille at NWA Back for the Attack. Came up short. The bottom line is this. Women's wrestling matters, damn it, in AEW, and it finally showed itself in its true form. And I cannot wait to see where they take the division from here. The possibilities are endless with the amount of talent they have. Shout out, by the way, legit, Leda Hurts, who was recently signed. And I cannot be happier with the way this match and this story played out. Now, do I think this rivalry is over for good? Absolutely not. But I feel it's over for a good portion for now. And you got to imagine, does that mean that Thunder Rosa is one step closer to maybe challenging Shida again for the title? Or is this a prelude to maybe Britt Baker's ultimate crowning as the AEW Women's World Champion? Who is going to face Shida next? And Ty Conji's making her way up the rankings as well. So, again, Brad, your thoughts, what's next for both of these ladies? My God.
Well, considering how great of a rivalry this was, I think that this is the perfect way to end it. But I think that this rivalry will be reignited in the future. I could just see one of these ladies, if not Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, becoming one of the next AEW Women's champions, and whoever becomes the champion, the other will be the challenger, and we'll see that rivalry reignited. And at that time, when the time comes, you're going to have a lot of story to tell to go into a championship match.
Yeah, there's no doubt. They got to be saying something huge, I imagine, for freaking Double or Nothing when it comes to the women's title at this point. I don't think there's going to be a new title as much as people be saying. They should first change out the title, make it something bigger, more presentable. I mean, people, get off that, okay? Just get off that. It is what it is, all right? Maybe eventually, but it is what it is. I'm sure Britt Baker would introduce her own title as well. But, you hum her theme. Well, with that being said, I think that's a pretty good way to cover everything that's been happening recently on Dynamite. So let's go ahead and look ahead towards the future. As we know, Nyla Rose and Ty Conti, they renew hostilities. They will be facing each other one-on-one again this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. How many times does Ty Conti need to be tested by Nyla Rose before eventually she overcomes the native beast? And you got to imagine that Ty Conti, she is one of the brightest stars rising through the ranks in the AEW Women's Division. But I also wonder, is there a different outlook to this match, considering you still have Vicky Guerrero, you still have the Vicious Vixens, and you also might have, under Vicky's management, Jade Cargill. Give me your thoughts towards Ty Conji versus Nyla Rose. What are you expecting? This is their third encounter now in AEW.
I mean, it's, you know, I would love to see Ty Conti get a victory. Don't really have much else to say there. I think Nyla Rose she's been a champion with the company. Ty Conti has really shown a lot of promise. With Anna Jay being on, sideline for the time being, there's a lot of opportunity for someone like Ty Conti to come in and really showcase what they could do. I think she needs this victory on Wednesday.
All right, that's fair enough. Well, we also got to consider now how this relationship, it seems, with Jade Cargill and Vicky Guerrero, and now the roles like fully develops with Brandy, of course, expecting a child. She will be involved in this for a while. I imagine Red Velvet still wanted to get her hands on Jade Cargill. And by the way, Jade, she had a quick match with Danny Jordan. Not a bad showing for a singles debut. But again, I just hope Ty Conji, she's going to bring the fight. I hope they give this match a lot of good time because we saw what these two could bring during the tournament, and Ty Conji deserves it. With that being said, we also got the Pinnacle, the first time in action now as a tag team, or I guess you could say trios action. Sean Spears and FTR, they take on the Varsity Blondes and Dante Martin, one half of Top Flight. Dante Martin really trying to show out as a single star. I imagine his partner must be injured or something. What are you expecting from this match as far as the Pinnacle goes? I mean, FTR and Sean Spears, they've pretty much been the foundation of Tully Blanchard's family, I feel like, since day one. In a way, I feel like Tully, Sean Spears, and FTR, they are literally the four horsemen of the Pinnacle. And then you have Wardlow and MJF that lead it outside. And I imagine Wardlow's got to be in their corner. Your thoughts towards this trios match?
I think FTR is going to shine. I mean, I think, especially considering some of the losses they've had recently, particular with Dax losing the Jungle Boy, I think they need to come back and get a victory, and I think that they're going to really be a big factor in this match. I think they're going to help. They're going to help win.
Do you see the Inner Circle showing up and trying to wreak vengeance, or are we going to hold that out for a little longer?
I could see it going either way. I think that it'd be a little predictable for them to come out so soon, but I think if you extend it, that could really build up to something to happen at Double or Nothing.
All right, fair enough. We also, of course, briefly talked about, of course, the TNT Championship match with Darby Allin and John Silver. We feel like maybe the Hardy Empire will come out. Will this maybe go to a 20-minute draw? Is this going to be John Silver's draw? Is that the best way you protect John Silver here? Because I don't know about you. I don't see a title change. Do you think a draw could happen?
Possible. I mean, we've had this conversation before in the past with different matches that have come up that we've been trying to do predictions on, and we've yet to see it. Maybe this is the time, and I don't think that this would be a bad scenario for it to happen. Because you put a draw, not only do you protect John Silver, you give Darby Allin more drive to want to defend that title week after week. You can have him come back and say, all right, I defended my title. I'm still the champion, but I don't feel like I really gave what I should have as a champion. So I'm going to go ahead and offer a challenge to, another Dark Order member or whoever wants to come out and fight me right now. Let's just go. Let me show you what I can do as the champion, representing this company, representing TNT.
And representing the honor, the legacy, and the memory of the late, great Brody Lee.
Yep.
I like that a lot. And again, Darby Allin's one of those that is never content. He's always this every day. He always tries to push himself more. So I do like that. And the last match we now know, of course, based on what happened at Elevation, we talked about Tony Khan, GM mode engage. Kenny Omega will take on Matt Sydal. To the point, if Matt Sydal wins, he gets literally an AEW World Championship opportunity. So this is interesting to me because I could see this being a real test of Kenny Omega ahead of Rich Swann, because I feel Matt Sydal and Rich Swann, they exhibit a lot of the same factors in and out of the ring and their ring game. Do you see Matt Sydal somehow pulling the upset here?
I don't see it personally. I think I think Seidel will go out fighting, giving it his all, but I think Omega is going to be standing on top at the end of the night. I mean, they say he's the best in the world for a reason. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. This feels like to me that Kenny Omega is sending a message to one Rich Swann after the further message and the psychological warfare that Don Callis planned on Rich Swann in that incredible promo. In my opinion, with Kenny Omega apparently being involved in the upcoming Impact tapings, however that might work out, this is simply to show what I'm gonna do to Rich Swann 10 times over. But I digress. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead into the aftershock discussion and talk about anything else that might be on our mind regarding what could be coming up in AEW, Impact, what might be developing with certain storylines, or what else might be like, maybe on our mind fantasy-wise, or what we've been thinking about. So we've seen some subtle politicking going on. We've seen some subtle teasing going on about the leg slap, for example. We've seen some stuff regarding the pyrotechnics. We've seen now maybe some heel turns and face turns developing, including in one Machine Brian Cage, and so much more. So with that being said, Brad, I know you probably got a lot on your mind. We discuss it all the time in our elite chat group as well. So give me some other thoughts you have towards AEW or anything you might be wondering about.
I'm glad you asked that question because I was actually thinking about that today when I watched BTE. Spoiler alert for those who haven't watched BTE yet. Either fast forward or mute.
What a nice warning.
Hey man, I'm just trying to warn the viewer. I never know.
Respect.
I don't want to.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. Go back to that segment on BTE with Matt Hardy and Matt Jackson, the Young Bucks, and talking about Hangman Adam Page, and Hardy admits, it wasn't Hangman that texted you that night. It was me setting you up. So then Matt Hardy walks in and sees, Hangman Page, having a party, having a good old time with the Dark Order. So we've seen this tease going back and forth of Hangman Page, the Dark Order.
Yes.
Will he join? Will he not join? Is he just kind of a friend of the group? What's going on there? Then you've got the Elite who could be coming apart. So it'll be Matt and Nick parting their ways with Omega. So it always kind of makes you wonder what's going to happen with Hangman. Is there going to be some kind of rivalry that develops between the Dark Order and the Young Bucks? Are they going to try to fight over Hangman? Is Hangman going to find his way back home to the Elite? Will he join the Dark Order? Will he stay solo? Where do you go?
That's a very interesting thought, considering now how Hangman, he was wronged by the Young Bucks, who were the Elite, but now the Young Bucks felt betrayed when they were the Elite with Kenny Omega. So maybe now they could reach a common ground and come back together. And then you wonder how that could blend with maybe the Dark Order. Can that turn into a rivalry, or can the Dark Order and the Bucks and Hangman all work together? That's a very curious thought, because right now it does seem like there is one common enemy among all these men, and that is Matt Hardy. But if Matt Hardy comes into play now with Don Callis, then you got two very manipulative minds in play here, where at the end of the day, they are out for themselves. Matt Hardy, of course, out for more so the money. And then, of course, Omega proving why he is the best, why he's the AEW champion. So, yeah, might be onto something there. There might be more developments now between the Young Bucks and Hangman, to the point Young Bucks and Hangman might come together as a trio on their way to maybe Hangman ultimately becoming the next AEW World Champion, because people still believe to this day Hangman Adam Page should have been AEW World Champion, or should be AEW World Heavyweight Champion. And Kenny Omega, is that the guy that Hangman takes it off of? Is that the guy that defeats Hangman during this reign? And also, would the AEW Championship be the only title at stake with Omega trying to be the collector? How does the collector thing come into play here too? Do you simply go after him like an army from, Infinity War, basically, and try to take out one piece at a time? So you might be onto something there, Brad.
Yeah.
And BTE has give some subtle foreshadowing towards what could happen in AEW as far as the showcasing goes. So at this point, I still think it's way too soon to say and tell. We need to see we need to see the next plan of attack for the Hardy Empire, and we also need to see where the Young Bucks stand now as far as Kenny Omega goes. Because I feel like now Kenny Omega is going to call out the Young Bucks. Maybe not even tell Don Callis about it, because I feel like Kenny Omega's be like, "What the hell's wrong with you two? Where do you stand? Come on, we've been friends this whole time. Don't let your don't be deluded. Okay, don't be delusional. Don't get your psyche twisted. We are still the elite. The elite is for life. So I do believe you're onto something there, but right now I truly am not fully sure. All right, I like that.
Well,
But go
well,
ahead and
to
give me
add
your
to that,
thoughts on that.
you also create a a story arc of character growth and development for Hangman Page. He learns to trust other people. He learns that he can trust the Dark Order. He learns he can trust the Young Bucks. And what if you have like camaraderie with those two factions coming together to help get behind Hangman Adam Page to help take down Kenny Omega? And then he becomes. I mean, could you imagine Hangman dethroning Omega for the title? And you got the Young Bucks and the Dark Order coming up, hoisting Hangman on their shoulders, saying, "This is our guy."
Talk about breaking the foundation that is AEW and bringing all the worlds together. I mean, heck, the Dark Order friggin' took out the Elite at one point. Just saying. Again, it's like everything comes full circle. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's a new world. You really are changing the script there. But I do kind of like that idea a lot. All right. So I want to go ahead and bring this subtle thought up. We talk about, developments and heel turns and face turns. How about the Machine Brian Cage speaking for himself, standing out from Team Taz? And so far, we've seen the impact from that, it seems, no pun intended. Brian Cage comes out and says he respects Sting still as the icon, but also says Ricky Starks was wrong. So at this point, Cage praises Sting, and Team Taz, they're like, what? As we now finally have gone past this Team Taz and Darby Allin feud that's been going on for the last couple of months. So I got to ask you, can you see Brian Cage stand out as a standalone star in AEW?
Absolutely. Look at the guy's build. I mean, to me, and I hate to make comparisons, but just kind of help get my point across.
Go for it.
Brian Cage could be AEW's answer to what WWE has in Brock Lesnar. Look at the build of those two guys. I mean, I know we got Omega as champion, but you could really build a dominant monster heel in a guy like Brian Cage, but make him a babyface and make him come out and be, the badass you don't want to piss off that could really do some damage. I mean, hell yeah. There's a lot they could do there. And you could really start off with having Cage feud not only with absolute Ricky Starks, put him and Will Hobbs together in a feud.
I mean, we saw how those two went at each other like two rams in the Battle of the Powerhouses before Will Hobbs joined Team Taz. And then you also got to wonder, would Team Taz find somebody to fill that spot? I mean, maybe someone like JD Drake, for example, that's been involved in AEW Dark. And I'm sure Taz is always looking for somebody to add. But I do want to follow up with this, call it a $50 follow-up. It seems like AEW is becoming the foundation now of faction warfare. Look at the factions we got. We got the so-called Elite. We got the Dark Order. We got Team Taz. And now we got the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle. Do you think right now there might be too many factions going on in AEW to the point almost everybody needs to join something? Give me your thoughts on the outlook of this faction warfare that seems to be developing.
It's interesting that you bring this up because factions seem to be a big thing back during the Monday Night Wars. I mean, look at Degeneration X and the NWO, so to say.
Nation of Domination.
Yeah, Nation of Domination. The
Dangerous
Brood.
Alliance. Yep.
The Brood.
The Brood.
Um, the Ministry of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Factions have always been, at least from my perspective, a staple of pro wrestling. Are there too many factions? Well, it's almost like, we talked about comic books tonight. Let me make a comic book reference. Are there too many villains in a movie? In some cases, yes, it's been overstuffed, but it depends how you tell the story. There are some stories where you have multiple villains and it works.
Right.
Right now, it does not feel overstuffed because the Inner Circle has been there since the foundation. They're probably the largest of those factions. The Elites down to maybe only 2 people now, and the Young Bucks. The Pinnacle's got 5 active wrestlers. The Inner Circle's got, you got Jericho, you've got Sammy Guevara, Proud and Powerful, Jake Hager. That's 5.
Yep.
So these aren't large groups, but it's enough to where you have plenty of guys who are on their own as individual competitors, where you can have certain factions going up against each other to where you can really tell a well thought out story.
I feel like right now they are kind of doing that. The only one right now that's not involved in a faction-related story is the Nightmare Family.
Yeah, they're just kind of hanging out. The most that we've seen there is QT Marshall potentially maybe leaving or having some hard feelings towards the Nightmare Family, so to say.
I feel like he's battling himself.
Yeah. So faction warfare. AEW seems to really like having multiple talent involved in angles and storylines. I think that's why we see so many tag team matches. They excel at that.
Mm-hmm.
So plus you also get plenty of 6-man tag team matches on Dynamite.
And then they go beyond that on Dark and Elevation into 5 and 6, 12, 10.
So when you consider the size of these factions and you consider what they're doing on screen, it really fits within their narrative to do.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I look at New Japan, okay? They basically have these foundations. They have the Bullet Club for life. They got Suzuki-gun, my guy. They got Los Ingobernables de Japón. They got Chaos. And now they have the United Empire. And that's only 5. And then you got the smaller foundation. That's the NJPW main unit. And, of course, you have, like other stuff within that, like tag teams as well. And within fashion itself, you got trios and tag teams, and with the inevitable trios titles that I'm sure to come to AEW, it just feels like it all fits. I just feel like people sometimes think that maybe there's not enough focus on singles wrestling, but we have seen how they have tried to show us these tag team specialists in singles affairs and matches. Heck, a couple of people are injured or unavailable to wrestle right now, to the point they have tag team people as singles. Max Caster, prime example, and he was involved in the TNT ladder match. So I feel like right now AEW is able to handle the faction warfare to a degree that doesn't feel oversaturated, nor does it feel overplayed. I'm personally okay with it. As a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, I only see maybe one more faction beyond what New Japan has. And each faction has their own identity, too. It's not like they're trying to be something else, while the NWO turned into different versions of itself, from culture to color to just blah, and that destroyed WCW from within. Just saying. I don't have a problem with it. That's all I got to say about that. But I was just curious on your take, because I know some people are like, are there too many factions going on right now? Does everybody need to be involved in a faction or a team, etc., blah, blah, blah. And I've been hearing that a lot. So I'm curious. So I'm glad I got your take on that. Okay. So what else is on your mind?
Well,
breaking point. Well, we are about 90 minutes. I like to push the envelope. What can I say?
No, it's all been good, man.
No, it's all good.
I think we've hit just about everything.
Pretty much. I
Yeah.
mean, the only thing we didn't talk about at this point, and I'm sure people might bite me for it. Yes, I'm aware, but we did suddenly allude to the Lucha Brothers. Ray Phoenix and Pac have a tag team title match with the Young Bucks. Do I see them winning the titles? Not unless the Good Brothers cost the Young Bucks. That's all I gotta say about that.
Oh, I know something real quick. So Lance Archer's been taunting Sting.
Ah, yes.
Sting is able to compete in cinematic matches.
Mm-hmm.
What a way to put Lance Archer over if he would get a victory over Sting. I
I can
mean,
see them doing that.
and the thing is, I really like Lance Archer.
Me too.
Everybody. He's a great big man. He reminds me of Taker in the sense that he's a very big guy, but he's very agile and athletic for his size.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's funny you mentioned that because I'm pretty sure, was it Lance or AEW that put that out? There was something put out that literally showed that original opening teasing vignette of Lance Archer destroying all these people in the ring as Jake Roberts just watched on, sitting on a car. The very first way they introduced Lance before he came into AEW. I can see somehow that very setting used towards a cinematic match. Maybe Jake calls out Sting to meet Lance one-on-one in the ring. Because I could definitely see Sting putting over a guy like Lance, and I would not mind seeing that because Lance, in my opinion, he does not need to be a champion to be pushed forward in AEW. He's still a very strong, founded part and very well protected, I might add, as a big man in AEW. Look how Ray Phoenix kind of sold the idea of Lance. You are dominant, but you are not unstoppable in that wild main event where they were teasing maybe Ray Phoenix and Lance form a tag team. But again, that's another story for another day. And we still don't know the state of the Death Triangle at this point as a whole, since only 2/3 of it right now pretty much are focused on tag team title procurement. But I kind of like that. But here's the thing. If Sting does let Lance go over, what do you do with Sting going forward, maybe in the short term? Do you keep him off TV for a while? Because I feel like one of the biggest complaints about people for AEW, Sting's on every week.
Well, here's the thing. I'm a huge Sting fan. He's one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time.
Respect.
But it seems like it's been the same thing week after week. I mean, leading up to Team Taz, it was Sting comes out with Darby. He stands in the ring. He doesn't say much. There's taunting. There's a stare down. Last couple weeks, they try to interview him, and he just gets interrupted. It's like, well, what's the point? What are we really trying to do here? I know that Sting is probably there just to help with the viewership and increase viewership, but is that really a benefit to your audience if your cash cow, so to say, is just standing there idle, not doing what fans want to see, and that's him getting physical in some way or getting on the mic to really help move a story forward?
Right, because he's already moved forward the Team Taz narrative to the point Darby Allin now. He's moved past them. And at this point, you wonder if Taz and Sting are going to have a one-on-one match. Is Taz going to keep chewing out Sting? Are we finally past the Team Taz narrative? I feel like we have to be. But yeah, I kind of want them to change it up a little bit to the point you don't necessarily introduce Sting on Dynamite. Maybe you do some sort of exclusive, outside the show, tease something further to come. Because it does seem like as much as AEW does give us that constant different dynamic in its presentation at times with the wrestling and what's to come, the one foundation we've seen every week, Sting comes out, you think he's going to say something, gets interrupted, says nothing. Okay, so you did this instead of giving the women more time on TV, and people have been talking about give the women more time. Just saying. The bottom line is this. Do something more than just the same segment with Sting. Or maybe use it a little less to make it feel more special when it happens. So people are winning in anticipation of, oh, what's he going to say versus, he's just coming out again. He's not going to say a damn thing. All right. Well, I think that's a good stopping point as we've hit the 90-minute mark, and I like to keep things under that par, and I think we about covered everything as we look towards what else to come in AEW with its 3 shows, and there's still probably more to come, and I can only imagine how much more wrestling can they give us. And will they still continue to work with the BR Live app after these technical issues they faced with them? That's a whole different topic for another day. Only time will tell. But I think we basically covered everything here. So thank you again, folks, for tuning in to AEWSPARK. And Dr. Brad, again, always a pleasure, sir. God bless you and your family. Is there anything you want to plug and promote, and where can people connect with you?
So I mean, you guys can find me on Facebook. You also can find me in the Team All Elite page on Facebook, Team WWE. You can also find me working to hashtag restore the Snyderverse in the world of DC.
Eric, you might have competition for somebody that has a comic book collection. Just saying, please follow my friend Eric Brown on Twitter, folks.
Yeah, we're going to we got justice now. Let's restore the Snyderverse. For the record, I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. Y'all should check it out.
4 freaking hours. Yeesh.
And it's worth it. It's worth it. Loved every minute.
Fair enough. You and my friend Lex both. Shout out to AEW family on Twitter. Okay. Well, thank you again, Dr. Brad. And I know you're still working on that room back there with a big blue plus. So I'll let you get back to work on your man cave. And again, man, definitely got to spark it up again with you soon and talk other things wrestling with you too. Folks, please follow this good-hearted man. He's a great professional wrestling friend. He's a great friend, and he's got a good heart and a good mind for the business at hand too. That's all I got to say about that. People, you want to know more about me, though? Know this. I'm just a simple man and a lifelong fan of wrestling in all of its forms. Good, bad, ugly, big, and different, you name it. So please, feel free to follow me on Twitter at Foster1916. Follow me on Instagram at Foster1916 for positive motivation in your day and wrestling memorabilia, mostly autographs. I love this JR one, by the way. Thank you, good old JR, Jim Ross. I got to get these hanged up. I got to reorganize my room, too, and my office. Maybe I'll actually have a different perspective next time, and you actually can see what's over my desk. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, follow me on those platforms. Keep following the simple YouTube channel here for simple, live, fun, out-of-nowhere coverage on all things wrestling. Shout out, of course, to my ATW family on Twitter at youtube.com/C/NoFoss210. Upcoming content includes, well, basically my simple take on the New Japan Cup now that's concluded as we head towards Sakura Genesis. We also, of course, will have continued coverage of NWA, as I will be looking forward to watching NWA Power. Hopefully they have Into the Fire back. I missed that theme. And stay tuned as WrestleMania week eludes us very closely with so much coming. Good Lord Almighty. I will have predictions, coverage, prediction league forms, and so much more as we head towards the road to WrestleMania. And there will be other stuff that week too, including the following 4 promotions you see and more as well. As always, folks, I'd like to close. Remember this. There are no winners, there are no losers, there are no bettors. There are just fans with their own opinions and outlooks and their own individual passion for this thing we call wrestling in some shape, way, or form. At the end of the day, support one another, respect each other, and just enjoy life and enjoy wrestling. Simple as that. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend. Hit the bell, know next video goes live on this channel. Hit the subscribe button, help me keep going on this channel. Shout out to all 193 of you that's with me on this fun YouTuber creators journey. It's not laying up anytime soon. If I reach 200, I'll do a live Japanese Kit Kat taste test. And maybe some other stuff. I haven't decided. For Dr. Brad Campbell, I'm the Simple Man Noah Foster, always reminding you to just be smart, and as always, I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in once again to AEWSPARK. Have a good night, folks, and thanks once again for being part of the revolution. Take care.